We should tell him the truth.
Hey guys, so it seems like everyone who's talking about Multiverse of Madness is being really focused on the Illuminati, who's going to be inside it, but I'm stuck here debating what the heck was Professor Charles Xavier about to tell Strange, because it seems like he's about to drop a huge bombshell that shatters our knowledge of how the MCU works. And that's what we're going to talk about in this episode of Constant Review. So Professor Charles Xavier appearing in the MCU is a huge deal. After all, this is the first time an X-Men is actually going to be shown as part of the MCU. And this leads us back to the history of what happened back in the 2000s with Marvel Comics selling off the rights to many of their popular franchises, including X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Spider-Man, in order to not go bankrupt. And now with the meteoric rise of Iron Man and the rest of the Avengers, those properties have finally returned to the MCU. And so what exactly is the reveal that Professor X is about to tell Doctor Strange in this scene? And to answer that, I think we have to first go back and think about why Stephen Strange is being arrested to begin with. Stephen Strange in Spider-Man No Way Home kind of destroyed the boundaries between realities, the things that were keeping these realities separate, and that allowed many Spider-Man villains from across the Sonyverse to appear in Spider-Man No Way Home. And that appears to be what the Illuminati is mad at him for, that he's been destroying this boundary between realities. And this boundary between realities actually explains the Illuminati itself, as well as what has been happening with WandaVision in a weird way. Throughout the show Loki, despite the fact that we see many variants of other characters, we never actually see mutants or members of the Fantastic Four in any of these parallel timelines. And there's a possibility that the only reason for that was because they weren't shown and they actually did exist in other timelines. But a much better explanation to it is the fact that these mutants don't exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as it is. In fact, the X-Men and the Fantastic Four don't exist on the timeline itself, but instead in another dimension, in a parallel reality. And that's why when Doctor Strange was able to do a spell that traversed the boundaries between realities, we saw people from other franchises appearing in the series. And for whatever reason, the Illuminati has been protecting the boundaries between these universes to stop characters from each franchise from appearing in the other worlds. And this, of course, is why Doctor Strange is in trouble, because he threatened to destroy boundaries between those realities, which would cause those realities to fold on top of each other, creating one world where mutants and the Marvel Avengers and the Fantastic Four would all be together. And this brings us back to WandaVision, because in WandaVision, Wanda Maximoff creates her two children, Tommy and Billy. And while the avatars of those children, the bodies themselves, were actually fabricated from material in that universe, their souls came from somewhere else. And it seems that their souls were pulled across realities. Because in fact, that's the way Wanda's magic and Doctor Strange's magic actually works. They pull energy from across dimensions of the multiverse.
We harness energy drawn from other dimensions of the multiverse to cast spells, to make magic.
And along with that energy came the souls of Tommy and Billy Maximoff, who are now interdimensional fugitives in the MCU, as their souls should not have transitioned between those realities. Which could explain why they were screaming for help at the end of WandaVision, because they're currently being detained by possibly the Illuminati, and it's going to take Wanda Maximoff herself to come in and break them out. And I'm saying that if this happens, if the Illuminati is actually taken down in Multiverse of Madness, which I'm starting to think is more and more likely, that those realities will fold in onto each other, meaning that joining the MCU at the end of this movie will be the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and all those Marvel properties that we've been missing for so long. And while I still expect this movie to frame Wanda Maximoff as the villain, as a big fan of the mutants and the X-Men, I really want her to succeed and be reunited with her fellow mutants and possibly even her father. But anyways, that's just what I think. So guys, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.